to try and get our comments up before we get started. Hello. Hopefully it'll load this week. And I will double check with you all that you can hear and see me. We've got it open. Hi Mum. Hi Colleen. Yeah, I've got comments today. Hi Day. So let me just close this down. Hi Mandy. Got my family joining today. Hi Shell. Right guys, so whilst people are joining, I will introduce myself because I had a couple of technical issues last week, so I didn't really get into it because I wanted to get cooking straight away. So obviously I'm Katie. My background, I work with children with special needs, mainly teaching, but I've worked in other professions working with children for over 10 years now, and I now work as a special needs yoga instructor. So that's my job that I do normally. But since I trained with the Vegan Chef School last year, I'm hoping to bring some food elements into my career. So that's yet to be explored, but hopefully within, whatever happens after all this, we'll have some new ventures on the horizon. So what we're going to do today, we're going to do some vegan Lamingtons. So if you don't know what a Lamington is, it is an Australian cake. Hi Denise. It's an Australian cake, and it's a sponge cake that's filled with jam and buttercream, and then it's got like a chocolate coating on the outside, and then coconut around that. So I just added a little twist today, so we're going to put some peanut butter and jelly in the middle. So this was inspired because it was actually my wedding anniversary this weekend, and we got married whilst backpacking around the world, and we spent a lot of time in Australia, and that's when we discovered the Lamington. So as a little gift to my husband, I made some vegan Lamingtons this weekend. So this weekend's actually the first time I've tried this recipe. It worked out really nice. He's eaten them all, so it must be a good sign. I only got one. So let's get started, and if you've got any questions, I can now see your questions. If I miss anything, the Vegan Chef School will post them, or they'll answer for you, or I'll double check at the end if you've got any extra ones. Well, thanks Colleen, so sweet. So don't forget as well to find the rainbow. So I hope you can see the recipe, but I will be talking through it, and a picture will get posted later, and there'll also be a written version in the community group. So let's get started for our Lamingtons. So before we do anything, we're going to use a loaf tin. So these Lamingtons, they're only going to be mini cakes. I mean, they're a decent size, but Lamingtons are quite a big, chunky kind of square cake. But we're going to make some small ones because this is just a treat. Obviously we need to watch what we're eating always, but we're allowed treats. So I'm going to use a loaf tin rather than a big baking tray, obviously, because then we're going to have more cakes. So we're going to use, this is a 9" by 5" loaf tin, and I've just lined it with greaseproof paper. So this will create 8 Lamingtons, but we'll get into that later. I'm just going to put this to one side because we'll get that in a bit. So the first thing we are going to do, we are going to make a buttermilk. So a buttermilk is just basically adding some acid into some milk. That's all it is. So the acid is there because we're going to have some bicarbonate soda in our recipe, and that leavening agent needs acid to start to work. Whereas if you are we're using a baking powder as well, but baking powder's already got the acid included within the mixture, so by adding moisture, that's when the carbon dioxide release. But if you're using bicarbonate soda, you need to make sure you've got some form of acid in your recipe, whether that be apple cider vinegar, cream of tartar, lemon juice, whatever. So we're going to use apple cider vinegar today. So I have got 150 mils of, no I've not, yes I have, but I should have 200 mils of milk. 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 I'm using soy milk today because this is all I've got in. And that's all I tried. Tell you what, I'm sorry guys, let me just get rid of my hair. I don't want my hair down whilst I'm baking. So, what we're going to do, we're going to add our vinegar to our soy milk, and we're just going to leave it to sit there, and it's just going to curdle a little bit. So, we're going to add a tablespoon. Ah, you found the rainbow already. It's a piece of cake today. So, a tablespoon in, and sorry, I'm going to flip between sides. I've only got a little kitchen, so I'm trying to organise it so we can do this. It was quickly. And a teaspoon. I'm going to use a vanilla bean paste because I just think when you are doing something with vanilla, you want to see the vanilla seeds. You want to know. Just adds that little extra touch. But if you've only got vanilla essence, doesn't matter. So you're still going to use a teaspoon. I'm going to add this to the buttercream. Sorry, not buttercream, buttermilk. Just so we know that it's already in there. But also, sometimes you might find when you are adding the vanilla to the butter and the sugar, it starts to curdle. And that's fine because it'll correct itself once you add the flour. But you're just going to avoid that situation by adding it to your ingredients. So, we've got our buttermilk, so we've literally just put it all in. I don't know if you can see through the glass. It's starting to, it does start to curdle straight away. I'm just going to leave that to one side. We'll use that in a bit. So in my bowl, I've got my 75 grams of sugar and 75 grams of dairy-free butter. I've used a solid block butter today because that's all I've got in. But if you've got some spreads, doesn't matter, whatever you've got, you're just going to use that. So, we're just going to use the hand mixer, so I'm just going to be a minute mixing. It's going to be a little bit noisy. Oh, I tell you what I forgot to mention at the beginning, sorry. I want to involve children in the cooking. So, by doing a bit of baking, it's always fun. But I obviously know you don't want to have the children eating cakes and sweets and treats all the time. So I want to put it out to you that if you've got any budding chefs or cooks in your kitchen and you would like them to start joining in and being able to create some stuff, if you've got any suggestions that you want me to do, I will do that. But also I will just create some recipes that are kid friendly and we can start building their independent skills up in the kitchen and getting them involved. Because it's always fun, and I know some of you are having to do some homeschooling at the minute, so you can have a little cooking lesson, you can bring in maths because you're doing your measuring, you can bring in your literacy because you're going to make some recipes, do some writing, you can take notes, whatever you want to do, we'll get that done. Yeah? So let's get some kids involved. Can we use any milk, e.g. almond milk? Yeah, any plant-based milk that you've got. Sarah, just use anything that you've got. Like I said, I've only got soy milk in at the minute because I'm struggling to get milk. So let me mix up the butter and sugar and then we'll carry on with our recipe. So we're going to make sure, like I said, my butter was a block butter. So I've just left it out on the side so it's room temperature because you need to be able to mix it together. And you want to mix it so you're going to have a creamy consistency. It's going to get a little bit paler as you go. And it'll start to come together. I'm going to turn it up a second. Sorry, I'm just watching myself on the screen and it's really weird to see myself. I don't like it. Okay, so we're going to keep mixing until we've got it all mixed up. And we want it to be a pale colour and a smooth texture. Make sure you're getting those bits on the sides. So you want to just check. So we're just going to scrape it all together. We want to make sure we're not grainy. We've got no lumps of butter. That's nice and smooth. So we've got a nice, pale, smooth texture. So into that, we're going to add our dry ingredients. So I've already measured everything out just to keep things going today, because I know there's quite a few elements, because we've got the cake, we've got the filling, and we've got the glaze. So in here I have got 150 grams of plain flour, so just regular flour. I've got a teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of bicarb. So regarding flours, like I said last week, I'm not gluten free. And I know we're all running out of flour right now, so plain flour is all I've got left at the minute. So depending on your dietary needs or what you've got in, if you've got some self-raising flour in, switch it straight out, so 150 grams for 150 grams, but you're going to take out the baking powder and bicarb because your self-raising flour's already got the rising agents in there. If you are gluten free, I spoke today before, I got some advice, so she has suggested that you would do a 60-40 ratio. So 60%, was it gram flour? Sorry, I wrote it down. So 60% gram flour to a 40% maybe tapioca or potato starch. So for this recipe, that would be 90 grams of gram flour, which is chickpea flour, and 60 grams of your starchy flour. So depending on what you've got in, so normally I do have gluten-free plain flour, it's already mixed up. I've never used it for baking. They said it can be quite powdery, so I don't know what that would do to the texture of your cake. So I would just stick to the advice of switching for gram flour and then that starchy potato or tapioca. So we've got this mixed together, so we're going to make sure that your rising agents are mixed in. With baking powder, we've only got 1 teaspoon because this isn't a big mixture. It's not a big mixture, so you have to be careful with how much you're adding in, because it can leave quite a chemically bitter taste if there's too much in your mixture. So we're just going to mix the flour in. Oops. Keep it in the bowl if you can. So these little jobs are perfect for your kiddies if you've got some with you. Get them mixing, get them pouring. Doesn't matter how old they are. Doesn't matter if it gets messy. Let's have some fun in the kitchen. And learning to cook is such an important skill. Learning how to be safe in the kitchen is really important. So the more they see you do it, the more you practice. The more they practice, the better they're going to become in the kitchen. So I've just given that a quick mix, but I am going to give it a little mix with this. And it's going to go kind of like a breadcrumb texture. We just want that butter mixed through. But we're not going to go too much. So that's just a really quick mix. So now we're all mixed through. If you're using regular flour like me, you need to be careful when you're mixing cakes that you're not going to over mix it. Hi Heather! Sorry, I'm waving at my laptop and you're over there. You're going to need to be careful that you're not going to over mix gluten flour because we're making a cake. So over mixing it's going to over activate the gluten and you're going to get a tough cake. So that was just a quick mix just to get the butter through, and then we're just going to pour our buttermilk mixture straight in. So this was our soy milk, apple cider vinegar and vanilla straight in. Nice easy mixture. So we're just going to make sure all those bits come out. When you are baking, you are using a specific recipe, so you want to try and get every single thing out. No wasting while we're baking. I'm just going to pop that there. I think I've finished with it, but I don't want to get rid of it just in case. And then we're going to do a final mix. So we're going to mix our wet and dry ingredients together now. So again, quick mix through. We're going to take a little longer with this one, but not too long, on a medium speed. Mix, mix, mix. I am going to go down. Put that there. So we're going to scrape the sides down. So we're going to make sure everything's incorporated. No lumps of flour, no lumps of butter. Everything's mixed in. Go again, one last time. Heather, if you make these Lamingtons, you're going to have to let me know how they compare, because when I was in Australia, I wasn't actually vegan then, so I've never tasted a vegan Lamington. But I've obviously tasted some amazing vegan cakes, so we can get a good sponge cake. And I've made a little bit of a different glaze today. But I actually did work in a couple of cake shops when I was in Australia. I was in Sydney, so I did make a lot of Lamington, so I should know what I'm doing. I might shoot myself in the foot saying that. So we have our cake mix. So it's not too thick, not too runny. If you are using your gluten-free options, you might need a little bit of extra moisture, but if you're going to add some extra moisture in, we're going to use a bit of milk, and you're going to do it a tablespoon at a time. You might not. I'm just going to suggest that just because I haven't done it, and I know some gluten-free flours just take a bit of extra moisture just to mix up. Yes, it's definitely possible to mix by hand. I'm only doing this just to speed things up. To be honest, I normally whisk everything up by hand. This is just a simple cake mixture. So the only time you're going to spend a little bit extra on is that butter and sugar mixture, because we're going to get it nice and smooth. So for this, we're going to pop it straight into our lined loaf tin. Pop it straight in. And this will go straight into the oven. So I've just realised before I went live that I haven't put the alternative cooking temperatures on. So this is going to go in at 180 degrees Celsius, 350 Fahrenheit or gas mark 4 depending on your oven. Also, the cooking time that I'm suggesting is 30 to 35 minutes. In my oven, it actually took 40 minutes because my oven's not very good. So you're going to give it 25 half an hour, let's say. So from that 25 half an hour mark, we're going to check it. Don't need to open the oven all that time. Just going to bang it to make sure that any air bubbles come out and it levels out. And when you put it in the oven with any cake, you want it in the centre of the oven so that air can circulate around. So we make sure there's no other baking trays or anything in the oven, just your cake, and the air can come around the cake, and we're going to get an even bake. So I'm just going to pop it in and set my timer off. But I've already got pre-baked cake, so we don't need to wait for that. So let me just wipe this down. Next, we will mix together our filling. So let me just move this, because I don't need that. I'm just going to wipe that because we're going to reuse that. So for the filling of a Lamington, like I said, it's normally buttercream and jam. Lovely filling. Nice and easy to do. I know that there's been the recipe for the cashew nut buttercream that would be lovely inside, so I didn't want to do the same. And my husband loves anything with peanut butter in, so do I. So why not put peanut butter in? Peanut butter, jam, chocolate, fantastic. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to use this. So again with the filling, I'm just going to whisk it with this just to keep it going. But you can do this by hand. Everything on here can be done by hand. So let me grab this and we'll talk about our filling. So in here, I've got my peanut butter. Use coconut cream. So I've just been really cautious when I've made this recipe. Obviously we could have packed more sugar in, we could have packed more fat in. It's going to taste lovely, but Also a little bit too indulgent. I'm a bit like Day that I don't have a mega sweet tooth. So for me, I'm quite happy for it to just have a little bit of sugar in, because I'm taking into account the fact that we're going to coat it with something sweet. With the peanut butter, it has to be smooth peanut butter. My peanut butter's also got a little extra added bit of salt, so that's why, another reason I've not added salt into the cake mix. If you want to, you're just going to add half a teaspoon, maybe a quarter of a teaspoon. It's up to you. You do not need to have salt in your cake. It kind of is there to add a little bit of extra depth to the taste, but because we've got such a strong filling with the peanut butter, and then we've got the chocolate and the coconut on the outside, it's really not going to make a difference. So in here we've got peanut butter, coconut milk, and some soy milk. So the coconut milk is there, no, not coconut milk, that's what I was trying to say, coconut cream. So the coconut milk, that's going to separate, and you're going to have the solids and the liquid. The coconut cream just stays into that creamy texture, and that's what we want for the filling. So even if you whisk this up now in your cake's baking, and then you leave it on the side, it's still going to be ready to spread, and it's going to stay as it is. I've put on the recipe 2 to 3 tablespoons of milk. So I've only put 2 in here. We're going to whisk it up, and we're going to see the consistency. We want it to be able to be spread. We want it to be spreadable, because it's going to go across as the filling of our cake. So let's whisk this up quickly, nice and easy. And depending on your peanut butter, it will obviously determine how much milk we're going to put in. So I'll tell you what. I'm not going to add any extra to this. So you can just see, still just looks like peanut butter. We're just bringing that coconut taste into the centre. It's really subtle, but we've got the coconut in the centre now, and we've got the coconut on the outside. And that's it, that's just going to stay as it is. If you do think that's a bit too thick, like I said, you're just going to add your extra bit in. I'm so glad you like the idea, Dave. Sarah, can we use the thick bit on the top of the coconut can? I don't want to say yes or no because I haven't done it. Give it a try. It's just because maybe don't use as much, or yeah, maybe use keep it at room temperature, obviously, so it's not thick. So get your coconut milk at room temperature, so it's all together, so we're not separate, and just see how that goes. I'm just cautious that if you just use that top solid bit, this is gonna set really hard if there's too much of it in there. So if you're gonna make your cakes and then say you're gonna keep them for a couple of days and pop them in the fridge, I'm just cautious of what that centre's gonna turn into. So if you do try it, let it be room temperature so it's not separate. Maybe just use 1 tablespoon, just so we've got that coconut thickness and creaminess in there. Maybe add a little bit of extra milk so we've got it still spreadable. And if you do it, let me know. I tell you what, I would also, because I'm going to have an extra cake, I'll try it out as well, and I'll let you know. How about that? Let's check. Keep up to date on the community group, and I will add it onto there. So we don't need that anymore. So I'm just going to leave that to one side. When I come to do the cake, if I think that's a bit thick, it might actually be. Tell you what, let's add it, and then I'm just going to stir it in. Add 1 more, and stir it. There we go. Perfect. There we go. So, nice creamy peanut butter filling. That's going to come to one side. Remove the milk. We're going to add jam. So, I've not made my own jam. Store-bought jam. And we have cake already made. So here is my loaf. You are going to cut it down the centre. I've already done this. I'm going to cut it in half down the centre. So turn it this way. And you're just going to open your cake up. So these are going to become our sandwich of cakes, and then we're going to cut this into lamingtons, and then we're going to coat them. So for your lamingtons, I'll just double check we've got no extra questions. Right, so I haven't put a measurement for jam, I haven't put a measurement for coconut, because it's up to you. We're just going to spread it on. So you want a really good, generous layer of jam on both sides. Obviously depends on what jam you like. I've gone for raspberry, and this is quite a tart raspberry jam. So we've got the contrast of flavours. So we've got sweetness, we've got the creaminess, we've got peanut butter, we've got chocolate, we've got jam. So making sure it goes to every edge. Perfect, and the same on this side. Oh, I might put a bit too much there. So you don't need any fancy tools for this. I've got a really basic kitchen, really small kitchen. I don't have any fancy equipment. I think this is as fancy as it gets. So all of my recipes will be accessible. We can always do things by hand, even if you're making bread or something that takes a bit of time. We're just going to add some extra time, aren't we? We're going to knead it and we'll get it done. Right, I'll use a different knife for this. So we've got our jam on both sides, and then we're going to use our filling. Let's use this and we can scrape it all out. Nice thick layer of peanut butter frosting. It's not really frosting, is it? But we're just going to spread this around. Nice thick layer of this, and then you're just going to sandwich your cake on top. Get it as even as we can. Don't worry about bits coming out the side. We'll leave that in there because we'll use that for our glaze. I'm glad you like the look of it. I can eat anything with peanut butter in. So you're just going to put the top back on. And then we're going to cut them into lamingtons. So, nice and easy. Straight down the centre. You're going to have two long cakes. I'm going to make sure I get down the bottom. Probably should be scraping that up because I've got lots of filling in there. And then you're going to cut in half again, this way, and then cut each in half again. So we're going to end up with 8 cakes. A little bit of maths with the kids here, do some fractions. So you end up with 8 cakes. Right, so that's our cakes sorted. We're going to move on to the glaze. Let me pop the lid back on here. So with our glaze, I hope you can see me over here. We're going to put some hot water. I've popped some hot water in here already, but I'm going to pop it back on the heat just because it's been sat there. I like this one. So you want your water to be simmering, we don't need boiling water. And you want to make sure when your bowl is on the pan that it's not touching the water. The steam just going to help melt this. We're not cooking anything, we're just melting everything to mix it together. So in here, I've got the cocoa butter, cocoa powder, coconut milk and maple syrup. Again, I've only added, I keep saying butter, milk, don't I? Coconut cream. I've added 3. Again, you want to make, it's a bit hard to tell if I'm honest, because as it melts, it's going to look thin and then it thickens as it sets. So this is not a thick coating, this is just a light glaze, and we're going to cover it in the coconut. So for this, again, you're going to add the 3 tablespoons of coconut cream. If you want it a little bit runnier, if it's still a bit thick, you're going to add the 4th one. But I think we'll just keep it at this. So you're going to pop the bowl on top. I'm just going to turn that down because that's getting hot now. And you're just going to whisk this gently together until everything's melted and combined. We're going to have a nice chocolate glaze to go around the edge. I decided to do this rather than an icing because I was cautious of adding all the extra sugar in. So I know this is still naughty, I know it's still got the fat in and we've still got a bit of maple, but it's only going to be a thin coating around each cake. This is just taking a little bit longer than normal because normally I'd just pour some boiling water in from the kettle. Like I said, it's been sat there. So we're coming together now. So you need to make sure all of the cocoa butter is melted. I'm just going to leave it sitting there a second. Whilst that's happening, you are going to get your coconut ready. So it gets a little bit messy this bit, so definitely get the kids involved. So we've got coconut, I've just got some extra. I've got these little dishes that I use just to bake lasagnas and things in. So it's perfect for if you're doing a batter and you want some extra coating. So if you haven't got this, on a plate, wherever. So if you're going to use a plate, make sure there's a bit of a, like a rim on it so you're not going to get coconut everywhere. But if you still get coconut, it's okay. So we've got our coconut and then we will coat that. Nearly there, guys, with that. I'm just going to add one more tablespoon of cream. Yeah, the coconut cream does taste of coconut. But the chocolate kind of overpowers it and the peanut butter overpowers it. So I'm trying to think of an alternative that you could put in that's thick. Ooh, this is coming together nicely. I would just change your ratios. So I would say for the filling, don't add any coconut to the filling then. That creaminess, it's going to bring a bit of smoothness to it, but peanut butter is spreadable. So adding a little bit of milk but whisking it together just so we've got it all incorporated. Or you could warm the peanut butter up and it becomes runnier, so you could spread it that way without adding anything to it. For the glaze, I don't know, because I don't know how it's going to set without this. But yeah, I guess if you wanted it just to be a bit more chocolatey, or you could add some icing sugar in to make it more of a chocolate icing rather than the coconut cream, and add some melted chocolate in too. Right, so we're all mixed together. Yeah, definitely, Sarah, you can definitely use some melted dark chocolate. That was my first option, but because we're struggling with our shopping right now, we've just I'm just adapting the recipes, so we can kind of use what we can get hold of. So yeah, definitely switch out. It's hard to get cocoa butter sometimes. Switch that out for chocolate. Same thing. Just use the same amount. Just take the cocoa powder out. So, don't know if you can see, we've got a nice glossy coating. So this is where, if we have got children joining in with this is hot. I mean, obviously it's not too hot to touch, it is hot for a child to touch. We're going to be dipping our cakes into this, so it is going to be warm. So we're going to make sure that children are being supervised and that this isn't too hot to touch. I'll let that cool down a second, and I'm going to get, oh yeah, definitely use crushed peanuts, great idea. So I want a plate to pop them on just so they're out of the way. So we're going to get messy. So we've got our glaze, we've got our coconut, and we've got our cakes. So if you wanted to, I'm not doing it because I'm not bothered about them looking all professional. If you wanted to, you could trim the edges so you've got perfect equal cakes. If you did that, you could use the scraps. You're not going to get that much out of it, but you could use the scraps to make some cake pops so you're not throwing it away, or just eat it. It's up to you. So you're going to take each cake. We're going to dip it. I'm just trying to come to this end so you can see what's happening. We're going to dip it into the chocolate, just scrape it off the edge, and then straight into the coconut. Oh, can't get hold. Try to keep like a dirty hand and a clean hand. Doesn't always work, and I always forget. And then with your clean hand, you're just going to top that chocolate. Dip it around, and we have Lamington. I'll just do a couple more, then we'll show you. So, dip it into the chocolate, move it around, and shake that coconut off. So we're not leaving it sitting in the chocolate. Obviously we don't want it to soak it up. We don't want a soggy cake. Dip, dip, dip. All around. Coat that top bit to hide the chocolate fingerprints. And off it goes. Oh yeah, sorry Sue. So for the glaze, like I said, I'll post this picture in the community group later. So for the glaze, you've got 4 tablespoons of cocoa butter, 2 teaspoons. I've put tablespoons, that should be teaspoons, I'll correct that. 2 teaspoons of cocoa powder, 1.5 tablespoons of maple syrup. I've put 4 tablespoons of coconut cream in as well. So do the 3 tablespoons of coconut cream, give it a whisk. If it's looking a bit thick, just add another one in. So, there you have it, guys. I won't coat anymore. But there we have it. We've got some peanut butter and jelly Lamingtons. So I wouldn't eat them straight away. You could leave that at room temperature and just let the glaze dry, or pop them in the fridge for 15 minutes and they're ready to go. If, like me, now I've got some extra cakes and I've got cake in the oven, for the Lamingtons, once they're made, I'm going to keep them in an airtight container in the fridge for, I don't know, about 3 days, 4 days maybe. You're going to have to just see what they taste like. I've had some in the fridge since Monday. So, well, I haven't got any in the fridge now because Jay ate them, so we'll have to see how they last. For freezing the cake, so if you've got the cake and you've decided not to carry on with the process, you just want your sponge cake, you can freeze that. So wrap it up so it's airtight and pop it in the freezer, and you can use it as and when you want to. So are they my 2 pieces? Oh, yes, they're yours, Paul. You can have these 2. So like I said, you're gonna have 8 pieces in total, 8 pieces of cake, 8 Lamingtons, individuals, and I hope you enjoy them, guys. If you want to follow me outside of the Vegan Chef School, you can find me on Instagram under Pinch of Kindness, and I've also created a blog, and I've created a blog about the Vegan Chef School, so go and check that out. That's also, find that at pinchkindness.com. So I'll be back next Wednesday. And like I said, if you would like me to do some more recipes for children, we can get them involved, let me know and I'll have a think about some things and we'll get cooking together. Thank you all for watching and I've really enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week, guys. Bye bye.